All right, good morning, early afternoon, everyone. I'm really excited to be here today to talk about the training and what we need to know about EV training, what's going on in technical training in Alberta and across Canada. So, what do we need to know? Well, as we've heard, changes to vehicle technology are accelerating rapidly. With the Government of Canada's 2035 deadline of all new light-duty cars and passenger trucks to be zero emission, it is expected that 1/3 of vehicles sold will be electric powered by 2030. That's really only 6 years away. So whether we like it or not, as we've heard, this is coming, or it's already here in your shop. So manufacturers, they don't wait for industry to catch up. But how much do we need to be concerned about as collision technicians? Well, most practices for service and repair of high voltage systems align well with the automotive service technician trade. However, some operations are overlapping, and this overlap trend has happened over the past however long both these trades have existed, with vehicle support systems like HVAC, drivetrain, and suspension. But it's happening more and more now as vehicles become more sophisticated with batteries and sensors for ADAS systems. Collision technicians need to be familiar with diagnostic and calibration procedures, as well as troubleshooting and safety precautions. We are not just panel beaters and painters anymore. We will not be servicing the battery themselves, but we may be required to remove the battery in some collision circumstances. The materials used to make the structures of the vehicles are not different than ICE vehicles. We still must follow best practices and manufacturers' procedures in regards to repairing, sectioning, and replacing panels. These procedures don't see a significant change, but what does change is the different precautions needed when working around and moving and inspecting zero-emission vehicles. We must understand risk, more so the risk of having something go wrong, or maybe just more the fear of having something go wrong, especially in the event of a collision that may compromise the battery, which won't happen too often, but it could. Just knowing that some collisions may cause the state of the battery to become unknown. So it could take time to diagnose if there is an internal issue. We have to make sure that we implement procedures to determine if it's actually safe to bring that vehicle in and perform diagnostic scans. So this should happen before the vehicle is brought into the shop. Lithium-ion batteries are safe if they're handled properly and there's no internal issues. But how would you know if there's an internal issue? Or rather, how would your technician know? Inspection of the battery should definitely be mandatory. And a practice of quarantining or creating a safety zone for the vehicle is the current recommendation. It's actually recommended that any suspicious vehicle, any suspicious punctures or smell of the battery, that vehicle should be at least 50 feet away from any other vehicle or structure. Maneuvering vehicles around the shop will need to be looked at. The customer will also expect their vehicle to be charged and to be able to drive the vehicle away once it's repaired. So charging stations will be needed. But not just installing it, we need to know what charger we need. So level 2, level 3, and what are the electrical requirements for that? Making sure that we have somebody certified install that into our shop is of utmost importance. High temperatures used during paint operations can damage the fuel or battery components. So it's more often that we're seeing non-baking or low-bake clears, so that we stay under that 140 threshold. In short, ensuring staff is informed and technicians are following the guidelines and safety precautions about these differences is the number one thing to understand when repairing vehicles. So what are our current challenges? It's time to catch up. Even though this is not entirely new to our industry, there are notable differences between manufacturers of electric vehicles and really manufacturers of every vehicle. The automotive industry is relying more and more on manufacturer-specific information. Having access to the body repair manuals is becoming increasingly important. Actually, it's a requirement for certain procedures and certain manufacturers. These manufacturers require certification to access their repair procedures, which will limit access to certain repair information. As noted in my slide, general information is available, but I guess you can't read it very well. But it recommends that additional purchase to the OEM website will be required for specific repair information. Subscriptions to manufacturer-specific information can add up, adding to the overall cost of business. Luckily, there are collision repair programs that help connect OEM information to repair shops, but there's also new players coming into our industry who don't necessarily follow those practices. I'm talking about EV startup companies and new EV makers. It's unknown right now if they will share their repair procedures or if they will require specific certification similar to Tesla. So setting standards. We talk about an EV certified technician. What does that actually mean? What is a qualified EV technician? Well, someone who understands the risk, someone who has the correct PPE, someone who's done the research specific for the vehicle to be repaired, and someone who understands codes related to the high voltage system. So with that in mind, what are the current requirements to work on an electric vehicle? According to the trade regulation in Alberta, you must either be a certified journey person collision technician or an automotive service technician, or be an apprentice who's supervised by one of those. According to specific vehicle manufacturers, additional certification is required. That's certification through ICAR or through the manufacturer specifically. So the changing technology landscape can definitely be scary. And the feeling of racing to catch up is definitely abundant. Currently, the Red Seals for collision technician only dedicates 12% of the major work activities task matrix to mechanical, electrical, and alternative fuel systems. Alternative fuel systems is defined in the occupational standard, includes propane, compressed natural gas, hybrid gas electric, hybrid diesel electric, and full electric vehicles. But that's only 12% of the major work activities. So it definitely hinders us. But EV technology is not new, and it is included within the scope of work of a collision technician. But how we implement the knowledge and best use the limited time that we have as instructors with apprentices is part of the challenge. Think about all of the vehicle support systems and general wiring aside from EVs. While this may not be new to someone seasoned, but it's all new information for anybody entering the trade or anybody who's not currently working on these general tasks in their apprenticeship. I mean, vehicles are complex, and it takes time to build the foundation of knowledge needed to handle many different repairs. So understanding some changes in collision specifics. So this doesn't change, but we need to accept that a journey person status is really the start of a career. A journey person ticket shows that a technician has the fundamental skills to learn and adapt to the changing industry. But the apprenticeship system can be challenging. Instructors, as I said before, have a limited time with apprentices in technical training and are bound to follow the outcomes set out by, well, the industry. And that's also governed by our individual provincial governments and then the national standards. So industry has a big voice in our curriculum. This tour is a great initiative to support the ongoing conversation about training and curriculum development in the auto body trade. Everyone here has a vested interest in what a certified technician should be competent in. And hopefully you guys stay active and contribute your expertise to the future of training requirements when you have the opportunity to. Talking about joining industry training networks. In Alberta, this is called the Trades and Apprenticeship Community of Expertise, or the TACE. And that is to help drive the change that you see to reflect the training of apprentices. Technical instructors face the challenge of time. We're really only responsible for 20% of the overall skills and knowledge a technician is expected to have by the end of their training or when they become certified. So the majority of training and experience happens while they are in industry. So I just want to break down the hours for you guys. So as a first year technician, you get designated 180 hours of instruction over 6 weeks. The same thing for second period, 180 hours over 6 weeks. For third period, it's 210 instruction hours over 7 weeks, and the same for fourth period. So for a grand total of 780 instruction hours over the course of 4 years. Now let's compare that to the 6,420 hours of required on-the-job training. So a significant more does fall into their actual job and actually doing this stuff in the trade. So when you break it down like this, it becomes more clear that additional training will be required. It even states on the Red Seal website that new vehicle technologies will require auto body collision technicians to upgrade their skills. And with today's vehicles, collision repair shops are more responsible for technical training than ever before. Specialization could become the future. It is becoming increasingly difficult for a single person, even a single facility, to be efficient at complex repairs of all vehicle makes and models. The differences in repair processes, materials, and attachment methods of vehicle panels can be noted without the need to mention EV vehicles. Yes, EVs require light materials in construction and more adhesives will be used, but that's been the industry trend for quite a while already. It is becoming more expensive to perform heavy hits on all makes and models. As I mentioned, many manufacturers require certifications or subscriptions to access their repair information. Repair centers will need to upgrade or introduce new equipment to keep up with the repair requirements. They may also have to invest specific training for their technicians, and that's where the separation comes in a little bit more. How much are you going to invest in your body tech? How much are you going to invest in their training to become a painter or to do that painting operation when they only want to be a body tech? So that's, our trade has already been sort of specialized already on the body versus the paint side. Here we see it happening a little bit more, especially in terms of motor manufacturers and what's going to be common at the shop, because, you know, the cost is expensive, but we can decrease that by, you know, being efficient with our repairs. And the only way to be efficient is to be knowledgeable. So the investment is coming huge, and variety does add to the cost and the time. So how can we prepare? Well, we have to accept that we will never be ahead of motor manufacturers. We can't look into the future and see what prototype will be accepted into mainstream society. So we shouldn't scream or be afraid that the sky is falling over every new technology. It is actually pretty exciting in some sense. In other sense, I can get the fear. But we have to be prepared and flexible to changes. Vehicle repair processes are changing at a higher rate than ever before. The same make of a vehicle could have completely different repair precautions and procedures from year to year. Training will strengthen the skills that a technician already has and will allow them to operate on a higher level with more confidence. The shop manager, estimator, technician, and administration staff should be equipped with the knowledge and technology to provide them with the right information to complete a quality repair. Managers should invest in training of their employees, and there should be safe handling procedures that should be implemented and enforced by everybody at the shop. Proper PPE like insulated boots and lineman gloves, those should be regular in the shop. It's critical to be able to research original equipment manufacturer processes every time and to ensure repairs are up to their standards. So certified technicians, they should understand how to power up and power down EV systems, safely working around EVs, and working on live systems. That's about the extent that our apprenticeship system currently will cover. And again, just limited by time. We only have so much time to develop, introduce this skill, get them used to it, and then they're back in the shop. So a lot of that onus does fall on the shop that they're in. So as an industry, we have to work together to mold the future of the collision repair trade. So becoming involved within the industry, but also within the training industry, so your provincial training institutes and potentially the national training institutes, is important. We want to set standards and support training. Training is really everyone's responsibility. So training can be very expensive, so we have to look at manufacturers for what they require and their guidance on specific training or procedures that technicians should be following. Our ability to confidently and efficiently repair these vehicles shows how essential and valuable our industry is and how important it is for us to be involved in the industry.